How has the Coleman Report shaped current educational practice? Well, the Coleman Report has influenced a lot of legislation that affects education, like No Child Left Behind, and also a lot of the educational practice where we have put in lots of different kinds of resources for the lower socioeconomic class of students, and it's also shaped our current educational practice through the different ways that the schools have implemented the Title I monies and the Title I program.
And now we're going to have a panel discussion on if anything has really changed and what are society's educational future struggles. So what do you think has changed or not changed in relation to what our kids need now?
I think what our kids need now, when you look at our kids of today, it's changed from a racial gap to a socioeconomic gap. Really, we need to find the kids who are most needy and provide our resources for them and help them out in that situation. It's more of a poverty gap now, I believe.
But do you think back when Coleman was originally starting some of his conversations, and when he came up with it being a racial gap, that the two were hand in hand possibly, and now you don't see as much of a direct link with a racial gap and poverty gap being the same, but
maybe that wasn't the issue of before.
Right.
And I think now with the struggles that we are facing with the money and the economy now, right, that is more of the focus. Where back then, where it was more slated to everybody being more of a one class, now we have different classes that are getting into that. So maybe that was the situation, that the awareness was different at that time.
That's a good point.
I think too, we're going to have even bigger gaps though, because when you look at the budget crunches and you also look at the economic gaps, and everybody's struggling. So no longer is it that class anymore. Now you're going to have schools struggling, regardless of if it was a higher school with, you know, higher socioeconomic needs, or one that didn't have any. Title schools compared to regular schools. With the budget crisis, everybody's going to struggle. So as far as the future needs of our education, I mean, we're going to be in dire need of a lot of things that we don't see now, but the implications are going to be huge a few years down the road.
So like what you were saying before, what Vygotsky and Coleman was saying, a lot hasn't changed. In society, different things have happened. We've gotten new technology, we've gotten new jobs, we're preparing our students for not yesterday, but now with the economical situation we're in, we're going to resort back to struggling like we were back then.
The good news is we have the capacity of knowing what data we need to help maybe head some of it off at the pass, but I think one of the things we're going to see, I think you're right in that all the schools are going to struggle no matter what their percent of poverty level are. I think that what you're going to see is schools like in Dallas's Highland Park that are public schools may not get public funding, but their parents are going to make sure, because they have the resources to supplement, and so you're going to really see not a purposeful shift from like a private school, public school aspect, but you're going to start seeing some of those under the table methods to compensate for that, which is just going to increase the gap even greater.
Current educational practice. I think even today we're still dealing with trying to make sure that there's equity in our schools. It hasn't been resolved at all. There's all kinds of things going on. Inner city schools filled with at-risk kids, the 90-90-90 schools. All of that is not anything that the Coleman Report or any of the work done after the Coleman Report has resolved. I'm not sure. It definitely has improved, especially with all the testing that's in place right now. As much as I don't like to spend so many instructional days testing children, it definitely makes us aware what every single child is able to do and who we need to work with. So that's definitely an impact that it had, but we're still working on it.
The next question deals with the social climate and of the day that affected the Coleman Report and how it was received. Essentially, my understanding is that during the pre- and post-war, World War II era, during the time in which Coleman formulated many of his hypotheses regarding cognitive development, the ideas of certain races being superior to others, certain humans being genetically superior to others, was very popular in the press and in local society. And when Coleman did his study, there was a lot of pressure and a lot of speculation about whether his data would support these general ideas about racial superiority in the classroom and in education and in learning, that were certain ethnicities or religious denominations, members of those denominations, inherently inferior and incapable of learning in the way that other ethnicities were viewed that were superior. And in fact, I believe Coleman avoided the issue in large part. His report did not show that one race was superior to another in cognitive abilities. And I believe he left that up. He left that whole issue to future research to explore.
How did the social climate of the day affect the Coleman report, and how was it received? I think the social climate during that time skewed the data with regards to the Coleman report because of what took place regarding white flight. You had minorities moving into schools that were predominantly a majority, and the upper class individuals moved out. White flight, they would move out. So it in turn left the campus that was housed with minorities similar to the environment that they originally came from. So I would say that skewed the results. I don't think it was received. I don't think it was well received based on the results, the data. In fact, I think that there was some adjustments made later on to the report, but I don't think it was well received by the majority of individuals.